Hey everybody, the Fat Vegan here. The girl who loves steak and eggs and dairy, but is trying to live a more plant-based life to lose 200 pounds. Today I decided that I would videotape outside because it is absolutely gorgeous out here today, and it's supposed to rain later, and so I want to spend some time out here today. I already took my walk for today, and it's just really, really pretty. I love fall in Ohio. It's just gorgeous. So if you see things bouncing off my head, I have oak and maple trees around me that like give off little seeds and acorns, and so I'm constantly being pelted with things that, from the trees. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? Quinoa. Quinoa. Why does anyone want to talk about quinoa? Well, there are lots of foods that are bad for you. We know that there are pretty, McDonald's foods, fast food. We know this. There's certain foods that we all know that are bad for us. So there's a lot of foods, though, that we're just not sure because there's conflicting evidence everywhere. Meat, dairy, eggs, one day, oh, milk does a body good. The next day, oh, you should see the way the cows are being taken care of and the milk's being processed, and it's just evil and awful, and we just don't know. So I'm trying to focus on the things that I know without a doubt that everybody agrees on that are healthy for you, because I'm trying to replace those bad for me things with things that are actually really healthy. So not just a decrease in the bad stuff, but an increase in the good stuff, because the increase in the good stuff will help with tons of stuff, just overall health, and we'll get into that. But I just felt like quinoa needed its own video, and here's why. Being an obese person, I've had lots of different foods over the years, and I love food, so I'll try just about anything. But I went to a picnic once, and there was a salad there that had these little things in them, and I asked the lady, I was like, well, what did you put in the salad? It's really good. And she's like, pardon me. She's like, oh, it's quinoa. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I didn't have a clue what she was talking about. I thought it was some weird health food, because I knew that she was like this health nut. So I was like, she probably goes to some weird, really expensive store, because I know her kids are out of the house and she's got money, and nothing that I could ever know or know anything about or buy for myself. I was really wrong. Beside the fact that whole foods are getting healthier and more popular, not getting healthier, they're getting more popular. I find quinoa everywhere now. Once you start finding different foods, it's amazing how much you start to see them when you don't even mean to, like stuff you never knew about before. So I started researching this quinoa stuff because Dr. Greger in his Daily Dozen says that we should have so many servings of whole grains every day. And I am one of those weird people that I'm not a huge whole grain person. I don't really like cereal. I'm not a huge bread person at all. My German half of me is screaming right now because they're like, what, you don't like bread? And I mean, I do like bread. I mean, especially the German breads. American bread is kind of like sucky, but the German breads, like the pumpernickels and the hard rye, and that stuff's good, But I just don't really have access to that a lot. They just, my husband grew up with the mushy bread, and I call it mushy bread, but it's Wonder Bread. So I just don't like a lot of those kinds of carbs, and I'm not a pasta person. Like everybody in the world seems to love pasta, and I'm not a pasta person. To me, it all tastes the same. So I'm having a hard time, or I was having a hard time, trying to find the whole grains that I need to eat. One of the things on the list was quinoa, and I remember hearing of it, from that lady in the party. So I started doing some research on what kind of a food it was, because I wanted to see exactly which things that it fulfilled for my daily diet, right? And I found 10 facts. 10. I found a lot more, but there were just 10 that really stuck out to me about them that really made me agree that it's a superfood. People have called it a superfood, and I totally agree. So here are the 10 reasons why quinoa is a superfood. And after I tell you about that, I will show you how I make it. Okay, because it's not that hard. So it's actually considered a pseudo grain, and which is actually a type of seed, and comes from South America. But, for all intents and purposes for our health, we're going to call it a whole grain. Okay. Number one, it is naturally gluten-free. So for all of you that are on a gluten-free diet out there, perfect option for a whole grain for you. Okay. It's high in protein. Here's another one of those things that those people out there that are so against vegans or against not eating meat or lowering their meat, okay, are so scared, the health nuts and everything, that they're not going to get their protein. Well, this is naturally high in protein. It is so high in protein that it contains all 9 essential amino acids, so it's considered a complete protein, and it is a great replacement for meat, and it keeps you filled up for longer because it is a grain. So to me, that's like right there is a great reason for it in my book. Okay. It helps weight loss. Number 3, it helps weight loss. It's high in protein and fiber, so it keeps you fuller longer, which helps you eat less overall. And less you eat, calories in, calories out, the more you're going to lose weight. Number 4, it helps prevent cancer because it's high in antioxidants, saponin, lutein, and quercetin. There have been several studies over the years. Cancer in some ways is still in its infancy. But we do know that there have been certain antioxidants that have shown us over the time that helps in the prevention, not of the getting rid of cancer, but helps in the prevention of cancer. And this superfood has it in it. Number 5, it's a prebiotic which decreases inflammation and helps promote a healthy gut. I can't tell you, when I start talking about food with people, about how everybody nowadays, back in the 80s, it was Weight Watchers and everything was calories, and then it went to fat, no fat. It's always different on what the big diets and everything are, But right now, everything I keep on hearing is gut health and inflammation. Those two things, inflammation is a natural occurrence in your body, but the less that you have of it, the better it helps you overall. And I can go into detail about that, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not very good at explaining science. So your best bet is to look up those videos or that part of Dr. Greger's book, because he explains inflammation and healthy gut very well. So that's number 5. Number 6 is high in antioxidants, which help prevent certain diseases. So not just cancer, but certain diseases such as diabetes and osteoporosis. So the antioxidants also help in other diseases that are very common. How many people have you heard of that that have diabetes or osteoporosis? That's just, almost everybody knows at least what those things are, right? Okay. So, we were talking about number 7, high amount of trans fat and anti-inflammatory, which helps the health of your heart and prevents heart disease. I kept on saying promotes heart disease, but it actually prevents. I was trying to type some of these notes really fast, so that's what I meant. It prevents heart disease. So anybody that has had a history of heart disease in your family or suffers from heart attacks or strokes or that kind of stuff, this is a great food for you as well. Okay, number 8, prevents anemia. High iron helps iron deficiency. So I did, at the start of this diet, a blood test, and I did a video on it, and one of the things that showed up for me was anemic. I was very close to being anemic, and I had to look that up, and it just basically means, that you don't get enough iron. And so then I started looking for foods that have iron, and my dark greens, which Dr. Greger says I have to have every day, like broccoli and kale and spinach, the ones that I have a harder time getting in my diet are the ones that are high in iron. So I'm starting to eat more of those, but I've also been on the lookout for new foods that are high in iron that are, different, more fun to eat, something other than greens, because everybody knows greens are healthy, right? Okay. And hey, I found quinoa. Number 9, extremely nutrient dense. So it's got tons and tons of nutrients in it. It has 8 grams of protein, 58% of the recommended intake of manganese, 30% of the recommended intake of magnesium. Isn't that the same thing? Maybe I wrote that twice. I don't know. 18% of the recommended intake of copper, 9% of recommended daily potassium, and 15% of the suggested daily intake of iron, which of course is something that I need. It also has essential B items, omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and even vitamin E and calcium. Okay. And number 10 It increases your metabolism. Everybody knows that the older that you get, your metabolism starts to slow down, and basically metabolism is how fast you burn your calories in your food. And seems like it takes me forever to do that. So anything that helps me increase metabolism is great. So I have never seen any food, and I'm sure there's other ones out there, but I've never seen any food that has so many good things with it. Like, there's nothing bad about it. Like, there's no way you can overeat on this thing. It's just, obviously you can overeat on anything. Don't take that at face value, okay? But I would think that it'd be really hard to overeat on this, okay? Yeah, so it's definitely, quinoa is definitely a superfood. I think it's great, and I'm glad that I researched it, and I've started to use it in so many things. Now, a lot of the different grains that I've tried, and there's so many of them. I've been going down to the Amish country around here and looking at a lot of the bulk food stores and finding all these new grains. And sometimes I just buy them, and then I research them and start to use them because I like to try different things. This weekend I made a mushroom barley soup that was delicious, and I had never cooked barley in my entire life. It was awesome. I'll be having a video on that one too. But quinoa, to me, it's a lot like these other grains, and the only difference, because quinoa, it's so small, it doesn't really have a huge taste to it. The only difference is consistency. So you try all these different grains and you find the one that just feels good in your mouth, I guess. You've got the rice, which are the little long grains, and then you have the round grains, and these are seeds. So, they're very, very light. But they do fill you up. They seriously fill you up. So I've been researching also some of my favorite sauces to make, and I'm starting to make different sauces. My husband and I made one on Friday night, which was one that I had tried years ago from the Cheesecake Factory, and it has a lot of cilantro and honey and different things in it like that. And tamarind paste was something I also had to research because I had no clue what the heck that was. But I now have it in my refrigerator. But I made this sauce, and I just decided to put it on a couple cups of quinoa with some vegetables, and it was so good. So good. So I am having so much fun trying all these different foods, and quinoa is my new favorite. So I am now going to show you how I make some quinoa and what it looks like. I make mine in an Instant Pot, but you don't have to, and there's lots of videos and information out there. It's really easy to make. It's like rice. You could probably even make it in your rice cooker, I'm sure, and if I remember correctly, I made a little chart for all my grains, but if I remember correctly, it's a 1-to-1 ratio for water. So 1 cup quinoa, 1 cup water is how you would cook it. You can stir it on a pot on the stove, or, put it in a rice cooker, or, even just put it in a baked dish in the oven. Like I used to make chicken on top of rice before when I used to have meat. Anyway, and I would just add the rice and the water right there and bake it, and I'm sure you could do the same thing with quinoa. I haven't tried it yet, but I will eventually. However, I'm going to be showing you how to make it in an Instant Pot, so here we go. So I keep my quinoa in mason jars, and do you see it looks like tiny little seeds? It is a seed, but like I said, it was a pseudo grain, so we kind of classify it as a grain, but they're very tiny. And I'm going to do 2 cups today. I've also created a on the inside of my cabinet here, I like to put my favorite recipes. I decided to make a little cheat sheet for my Instant Pot, and we'll notice that quinoa at the end says a 1-to-1 ratio in 1 minute. So that means for every cup of quinoa, you need 1 cup of water. Also, for all my greens, beans, everything, because of how they're processed on the stuff on the outside, I always rinse them off. So we're going to go ahead and do that in my little strainer here, and I will be right back. So I am now going to rinse it off. Notice I use one of these handheld strainers, not like a sieve, because these seeds are so tiny. You want to use something really tiny so the holes don't let the seeds out. So we're going to rinse these really good, And then we're gonna put them in the Instant Pot. So like my little chart said, 1-to-1 ratio of water. I used 2 cups of quinoa and I rinsed it off. So now I'm gonna use 2 cups of water and pour that in there. And my handy dandy little chart said 1 minute. We'll go ahead and turn that on and put that in there. Make sure it's on seal, which it should if your lid locks. And let's see, I wonder if quinoa is under my rice and grain. Oh, look at that. I pressed my rice and grain button and it's under quinoa. So let's go ahead and choose quinoa. And then I'm going to press the button to choose that. And on my little chart, it said 1 minute. Really weird, but I think it takes a while to pressurize and it doesn't take long to cook. They're really, really, really tiny. So we're going to go ahead and listen to the chart because I've never made quinoa in my Instant Pot before. So we're going to see how it goes. All right, there's 1. And then we hit start. It'll take a while to pressurize and then we'll let it cool down for at least 10 minutes. And I will show you how nice and light and fluffy everything looks when it's done. All right, so my quinoa is done. It took about 15 minutes to preheat and then it did my 1 minute of cooking. And I like to let all my grains rest for about 10 minutes afterward, but I was busy making my vegetables for my lunch. So I let this one rest a little longer, as you can see, 24 minutes, but we can go ahead and hit cancel. And we're gonna go ahead and go like this. Get that water out of there. Really quick, show you what it looks like. It's very, very nice and light and fluffy. From the video, it almost looks like sand, doesn't it? But I'm gonna get real close. See how there's seeds? Very, very nice and light and fluffy. So I'm gonna put some of that on a plate. So for my lunch, I fried up some vegetables here. I added a little bit of vinegar and some garlic and ginger, fresh garlic and ginger, to some potatoes, or not potatoes, I'm sorry, peppers, mushrooms, cherry tomatoes, onions, mushrooms, and then at the very end I added a little bit of spinach. I don't always like eating salad, so sometimes I'll cook up the spinach to get some of my greens in. And then I'm going to put that on top of my quinoa, sprinkle on a little bit of flax seeds, and I added a whole bunch of different spices like garlic powder, cayenne pepper, black cumin, regular cumin, turmeric, and I think that's it. Yeah, so just a lot of different spices. So I'm going to put that on top of my quinoa, and that's going to be my lunch. So real quick, this is what my meal for today looks like. It has flax seeds on the bottom, lots of vegetables. I sprinkled a little bit of chia seeds, flax seeds, and cut up a green onion for the top. But sometimes I will top it with avocado slices or nutritional yeast as well. Lots of vitamins in there.